Delighted to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And I just want to share just very briefly so we can have this very intentional champagne toast together. Thank you for being present for this moment. Thank you for being present for MoAD and for Dr. Harris. This is overdue, a celebration of all that she's brought to our legacy as a Black community and a Black culture. It is extremely a formative moment for me to have you here, and I want that to be known that every single person that has chosen to be a part of this reception is in that place of honoring, of uplifting, and of acknowledging the multitudes that is you. So thank you for being here to grace us with all that you have in both scholarly ways and in just as a human being. We are grateful and we are formed by it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now I gotta die?
No! Keep living! Keep living!
Oh my God.
Is it not a pleasure to be alive? To wake, to take breath, to feel the sun because you can feel it. Oh, glorious bodies we have. Oh, glorious space taken up. And what must have moved for you to sit here today? What histories gathered their skirts before shuffling to make way for your birth? What oceans shifted their water? What desire split itself in two to give you your name, and what a beautiful name it is. The word, your blood crafted to give color to this joy you live inside of, this joy you answer to and are responsible for. Is it not a pleasure to be alive despite the death we know and the death we don't, despite the cost to keep you full of your own life, if life is even something you can own? And when everything alive must eat something else of its life to keep going, to say grace is to speak at awake. To speak at awake is to know no sleep lasts forever on an earth this hungry. To say grace is to know that I owe my heart to more things than I could ever name. To say grace is to try to name them anyway, and so, grace to the grass mowed to clear the plot I stand on. Grace to the hand that held the blade. Grace to the blade that cut the fruit down and the fruit that grew its seed so gracefully. Grace to the seed plucked from its mother. Grace to the sun, raying from its body its own light to grace the ground, and grace to the ground that broke, to let the sprout free, to grace the day, and grace, the day that graces me all this time I keep. All this time I cut up into weeks, watching for growth to grace my struggle. Grace to the water that soothes me, and the pitcher that pours it, and the sand melted to grace the pitcher its shape. Grace to the rain that fell on the days I forgot to water my joy, and the cloud that cracked to drop it on my head. Grace to how easily humans forget all the dying making way for our joy. And is it not a joy to know that you too give your life to something? As a writer gives their life to what they write and why they write and who they write for. Grace to the grandparents telling stories no one wrote down. Grace to the story. It is a pleasure to be alive, but it is a privilege to be this present in the telling of it. It is a pleasure to be alive, but it is a power to know who to name in thanks. So think for a moment what it has taken to give you this, however you choose to name it. Was there not some precedent, some sacrifice, giving way to all of this glorious? And what will become of it? We say grace in curiosity. We say grace in pay back and pay forward. We say grace to mourn and to celebrate in the same breath, in the same glorious body, in the same space taken up. Ashe.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Minetta White, and I'm the Executive Director and CEO here at MoAD. Before I introduce our chef in residence, I wanted to thank our presenting sponsors, Kaiser Permanente and the St. Regis Hotel. Thank you so much. Yes. I would also like to acknowledge and thank all the staff and that put this on tonight. Isn't this room beautiful? Thank you so much. And particularly Elizabeth Gessel and Nia McAllister, who runs our public programs department and our chefs in residence. So thank you so much. It gives me much pleasure and pride to have Dr. Jessica B. Harris here tonight with us. Dr. Harris' work deeply connects with our mission, which is to explore the African diaspora and the ways we can continue to understand it in its present tense, not just to make it seen or represented, but felt and understood. She challenges us to see beyond the tastes and sensations of food itself and ask how it got onto our plates. It's within our food we can find joy, creativity, and community. MoAD Chefs in Residence program, which started in 2015, pioneers conversation by creating space for people of color to give voice to crucial issues around food justice, climate justice, social justice, while nurturing a love of healthy eating and community. The program is made possible by Kaiser Permanente that supports us in this program, which supports and hosts events like Black Food Summit, uniting Black chef, activists, scholars to enhance the well-being of African diaspora. Chef Brian Terry was our inaugural chef. Chef Brian Terry's in the house. Give it up. Chef Brian Terry, where are you? Stand up. Stand up. There he is. We are now continued on with our new chef in residence, Jocelyn Jackson. Yes. Woo! I just want to share a few words about Jocelyn. She is an award-winning chef, artist, teacher, and activist who was raised on the Kansas Plains by a Tuskegee Airman and the first Black woman to run for mayor in Wichita. Her family tradition of social justice led her to study and practice law, travel to Mali and West Africa as a natural resource volunteer, and complete degrees in fine art and environmental education. Once she landed in the Bay Area, her long life devotion to healing food experiences became the vessel for her cultural entrepreneurship and activism. She is the founder of Just Us Kitchen and the co-founder of People's Kitchen Collective. Yeah, give it up. Both organizations serve to center the lived experience and liberation of Black and brown people using food, art, and social justice as the vehicles for change. Please welcome Chef Jocelyn Jackson.
So much. Wow. I like it here. Anybody else enjoying their evening so far? Thank you for that. I am so grateful that you said yes to this evening. It is a powerful yes for our legacy, for our culture, and for our belief that we have such incredible grace to be able to show up with in this world. And that, for me, is exemplified by Dr. Jessica B. Harris. So thank you so much for saying yes to this evening as well. I would like to say that it is an honor to be in this amazing legacy of the Chef in Residence program. Thank you, Bryant, for initiating this experience that really contains multitudes. And this evening, I had a wonderful time being able to co-curate this menu with Dr. Harris. Some of her favorite dishes are on this menu. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that because many of you enjoyed the hors d'oeuvres in the reception, the akraje, right? We had this okra and pineapple taste of flavor that was exploding. We had also the stamp and go, which is the Jamaican fritter. All of these were sourced from the ingredients and the recipes that Dr. Harris has spent so many years researching for the beautiful expressions of our peoples. This evening at our dinner table, we're expressing those same ideals through the achard salad from Martinique, through the yassa au poulet, right? This is a beautiful expression of so many traditions within the African diaspora and on the continent. There is an opportunity for us to travel to Brazil with these beautiful greens. There's a chance for us to also be present for the quindens, this beautiful dessert you'll have later in the evening, a coconut custard that just defies explanation when it comes to the story that it contains. And we are going to enjoy Dr. Harris giving some insight to this menu as well. But it feels important for us to be in a really solid foundation together of what the power of this evening is. And I want to take a moment to say that we have also the amazing opportunity to have Adrian Lipscombe as one of our guests here today as the interviewer. And I want to say that specifically because it feels like the traditions intersecting. What I also have in store for you, and I just wanted to make sure I got it exactly right before announcing it, and I think we are systems forward, am I right? Just want to get confirmation? Video is ready to play, fantastic. One of the other things that we were committed to doing this evening is telling you as much as we could about Dr. Harris and the influence she's had in our culture. And that is also something we wanted to do outside of this room, not just inside of it. So we took some time over these last few weeks and months, and we reached out to the people that care about you and that wanted to be here tonight but couldn't. And so we'd like to share a first expression of some of the stories and some of the tributes to you and what you mean to all of the community that you have impacted through your research, your scholarship, and your lived experience. Please roll tape.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexander Smalls, and I couldn't be happier signing on here to give a great shout out and salute to my dear, dear friend of more than 30 years, Jessica Harris. Jessica Harris is a beacon in the food ways of the African Diaspora. She has been an inspiration for me personally throughout my career as a chef, restaurateur, and author. Jessica sets the table when it comes to celebrating who we are through our culinary expression. I am delighted to salute you, Jessica. I love you. I respect you. You're the smartest person I know. And you've been so generous and so giving in leading us all on this journey. And for that, I am thankful. I am grateful. And I am yours. Thank you, Jessica. My best.
Hi, Dr. J. I want to share my gratitude for you as a person, a writer, a scholar, and friend. For many, many years, I've admired your work. And I know I've heard you say that you do not like to be described as an icon, but many people see you as an icon and as a North Star, a guide. And I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for being the cover star of For the Culture, the magazine. And thank you also for participating in the book For the Culture. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate our friendship, and I salute you for this honor. And I also can't wait to see what you have in store. Okay, je t'embrasse.
It's almost a little funny to have to give an encomium for Jessica Harris because, what does the world already not know about your achievements, your legacy in making, everything you've contributed to not just our global understanding of the food of the African diaspora and culture of the African diaspora, but really about how people who are not ensconced, as you once told me, learn to take control of their story and take control of their culture and how their culture is recorded and expressed. And for that and so many other things, I am eternally grateful to you. It is an honor to know you, an honor to call you my friend and also my auntie.
My relationship with Jessica started as, like everyone else, as a cookbook author. And then we became colleagues, and then we became true friends who enjoy a meal together and go out to eat. But there was one thing that she said to me that has really left an impression on me, and that is the connection between language and food and culture. And without language, you don't have ties to your culture. And African Americans have lost so much of their language that you don't see our contributions in our food. And so we're constantly looking for it and constantly trying to find that connection, which is why we hold on so much to soul food with a capital S and a capital F. It is a proper noun. I just love Jessica for that, and how she's able to connect people through food with information and knowledge that we can hold on to.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Pierre Chiam, and I'm a chef, a cookbook author. And this journey to me began early in the 90s as a young cook in New York City. It was quite exciting to be working in the kitchens of the so-called food capital of the world. But there was a problem. That world didn't have my food culture of West Africa in it. And I saw it as an opportunity that had to be corrected. On that quest, I early on stumbled into one single author. It wasn't difficult. Her books was the only one in the libraries that were talking about the topic of West African food culture. But what it did, the way she approached it, was unique and inspired me to broaden my quest. They helped me understand that my food was powerful and resilient. They helped me understand that it transcended the harshness of the Middle Passage, that it was alive and well in Louisiana and Jamaica, Brazil and Dominica. Her books inspired me then, and they still do. Her writings gave me wings to fly on my own journey. Then we met and we became friends, and we even traveled to Senegal together. And over there, to my delighted surprise, I've learned that she was best friend with my favorite aunties while she was in Senegal in the 70s as a student at a university. Could this be a coincidence? I think not. In my culture, we know better. We know that Jessica Harris is working with an army of ancestors behind her, blessing her work. We know that her work is a blessing to the African diaspora and to the world. And we pray that Jessica keeps blessing us with more of that work and her generosity and her love and her beautiful smile. We love you, Jessica.
It had to happen, Dr. Harris. Thank you so much for those testimonials to what you offer to us each day that you choose to give us another book, another podcast, another recipe, just so much. There's infinite multitudes within you, and we are so grateful to have a conversation this evening that gets to even a few of those. I want to introduce to you this evening, well, I'm going to say, first of all, because I would be remiss, before I get to the main event, go ahead, Steven Satterfield, the host of High on the Hog, is here as well. We have to say it. But I say that because I want to segue into the fact that Dr. Harris has said this is a retirement renaissance. This High on the Hog book was published in 2012. It is now 2024, and the relevance is deep. This is an experience of knowing that this amazing canon of work was meant to be and on purpose, and you did not ever finish what you were thinking and what you were saying. Over a dozen of books are already published, and I hear there's another one on the way. And we're grateful, but we didn't need to know the proof that James Beard honored you, that the New York Times has honored you, that the NAACP has honored you. These are all affirmations of what we know to be true, is that your brilliance is necessary and essential in this world, and we'll take as much as you will offer. I am so grateful that you're joining us this evening, and I'm so grateful that Miss Chef Adrian Lipscombe is going to be your interviewer. Chef Adrian is an incredible fan. Chef Adrian is also a city planner turned chef. Also James Beard recognized a cook in this world that is absolutely getting on time to honoring the work that you have done. You are a pit master. You are a founder of land projects like 40 Acres Project that are taking us back into the places to reclaim our generations of traditions when it comes to being connected to land and food. I am so excited for both of them to be in conversation this evening, and I'd like to welcome them to the stage. Chef Adrian, Dr. Harris, please join us.
And I'm bringing my wine, so there it is.
I left mine.
You would be better than I am. I'm trying not to cry. Pierre, I will deal with you later. Francis, who is the editor on one of the new books that is as yet unfinished, is probably going, she need to turn that book in. Clancy, I adore, and Alexander actually is an opera singer who sang at my mother's memorial, so he's family. Stephen, who thank God didn't say anything. I see you, don't open your mouth. And Jocelyn,
Yes,
I will
Jocelyn.
find you. I will get you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to try not to cry. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. And you. I'm not going there yet.
Don't look me in the eye because I may cry.
Yeah, we're not
gonna look at each other.
Snot will be involved. What can I say? Sorry about that. Not dinner conversation, but anyhow.
Well, how are y'all this evening? Y'all good? How's the food? Good? I am so excited to be here tonight. You have no idea when they reached out to me and they asked me, they just said your name. I said, what am I cooking? That's all I asked. And they said, no, we want you to talk to her. And I asked the date, and unfortunately, I had an event at the Kentucky Derby. And I said, I don't like horses anyway. I said, give me 24 hours. And I said, never mind, give me 20 minutes. And then within, right, Jocelyn? And within 20 minutes, I had changed my plans.
Oh my.
Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, even though I may see you.
I hope so.
We see each other quite often, a couple times a year. But to be able to sit down and have a conversation with my auntie and get deep into conversation is very rare. I'm trying not to cry. Y'all gonna get me there.
The church does not need to say amen, okay?
Can I get an amen?
Thank you.
But,
it's going to be that kind of evening. Get on with it.
But out of this amazing event, the only thing that I'm very sad about is that I'm on a time limit. So I'm going to get started. And I'm going to ask you a little bit about your upbringing.
Ooh.
Oh. I said, you had an amazing upbringing. And if y'all don't know, y'all need to get these books. Your parents played a significant role in your life. You dedicate almost all your books to them.
Okay, now I really am going to cry.
Don't cry, please, because it's going to get me. You even said they made you a citizen of the world. In fact, like I said, your forwards and your books are dedicated to them. They're one of others that you have dedicated. How did they help mold you to who you are today? And how did they influence you as your parents led you to become this culinary historian?
Okay. I do cry when I talk about my parents. I'm an only child, and I am an only child with no mother, no father, no husband, no kids, and obviously as an only child, no siblings. I don't, and I think about it, and people ask this question more and more as I age, I don't know how my parents knew how to dream. But dream they did. As Eleanor Mason Ramsey, who is here, knew me when I was 7, 8. We lived on the same block in Queens. Our parents were both aspirational. The whole idea of African American community and the aspirations. My father was straight up a child of the Great Migration. I've been doing some work on one of those as yet to be written books on family history. And I have my father's birth certificate, and it says he was born in Napier, Tennessee, which I know is outside of Nashville, somewhere near Centerville. I went to Napier, only to find that Napier doesn't exist. Napier is an open pit iron mine. My father was born in probably the company hospital because his father worked in that open pit iron mine. He comes to New York City. I don't know how he had an aesthetic vision, but he decided that Erasmus Hall High School looked like a place he wanted to go. So he went to Erasmus Hall. We're talking the 1920s probably. Erasmus Hall at that point in time was not giving academic diplomas to black people. Right. So he ended up with a general degree, a general diploma. My father never went to college. He took evening courses. 3 of the most treasured books in my, I probably have 10,000 books, but 3 of the treasured ones are my father's Pushkin, my father's psychology text, and Wuthering Heights, because I'm a child that was never chased by the boogeyman. I was chased by Heathcliff. So I don't know. My mother was the child of a Baptist minister who ultimately had too many children. My mother was one of 10.
Yeah.
And she was one of the early ones of 10, so it was a struggle. But the 2 of them together, the only song that would ever make my mother cry was You and Me Against the World, because that was my parents. And how they figured it out, what they did, is what created me. So in brief compass, to a very long answer to a very short question, so you know what this evening is going to be like. 2 questions, that's all you'll probably get. Somehow or other, childcare. You know, all of those things that you don't think about that somehow or other then form your life. I was the first non-UN related child to go to the United Nations International School in New York. And I went with Ralph Bunche's kids, okay, because of childcare. My mother worked as a secretary, then moved up to administrative assistant at Queens College, where she left me behind as spawn of Satan, okay? And she would drop me off on her way to work, arranged with a friend who I'm still in touch with, for her mother to watch me after work. And that's how I went to the UN school. So it was these peculiar decisions that then were life transforming. Right. Okay. I wanted to be an actress.
Yes, yes.
So they regrettably, to their regret, sent me to the High School of Performing Arts. So fame, I'm going to live forever. I majored in theater. But then when it was time to go to college, my father, and I was very much a good kid. I did what my folks said. My father was like, you will not go to a school with a drama department because you're not going to major in that. You were going to find something that's going to give you a job with a pension.
This sounds familiar.
So I went to Bryn Mawr because it looked like a college.
Right.
It, I discovered subsequently, is one of the first schools in the country to be built on the Oxford tradition. So these lovely stone buildings. I took geology. I know they're made out of Wissahick and schist. Say that fast when you're drunk. That was that. But I had French.
Yes.
From the UN school. I didn't have anything else, so I majored in French. And then ended up going to Sarah Lawrence for a junior year in France. 20 years after that junior year, went back and reconnected with my French family that now invites me to their family reunions because we are
so close.
Probably more family than I am with my blood family. After that, graduate degree in France, PhD on the French-speaking theater of Senegal, which is how I could connect with Pierre Cham. Mangaref Nangi Firek. Okay, that's about all the Wolof I speak. But all of that because I had parents who dreamed. And their dream, you know, all those t-shirts, I am the embodiment of my ancestors' wildest dreams. I am certainly that.
Wow. Well, I wanted to move a little bit later as you grew up. What I've discovered, especially about the culinary world, is not everybody comes from a culinary background. Mine is architecture and city planning. And sometimes the influence of being interdisciplinary has bolstered my work and can bolster your work. And as you have a PhD in performance studies, how do you think your academic background has influenced your work?
I know that when I started to write, and I'm looking at this one, which is like, okay, this is a long time ago.
We're gonna get to that book.
Yeah, long ago and far away. In 1985,
1985, yeah.
Before most of the world here was born, I wrote a book called Hot Stuff, and it was a book, the subtitle is A Cookbook in Praise of the Piquant. And it was a book. I'm going to raise that up. Okay, so you can hold it up.
You'll see that. First edition.
Yep, bless you, bless you, bless you. Because they only sold 4 copies, so you got one. You know? But I knew something was perhaps different because I started doing what my academic training had taught me to do. So I read Columbus's diaries.
Wow.
I read Marco Polo's diaries. I looked at that. And that, I guess, is what ultimately made me the food historian. I'm not a historian by training or background. But I had academic rigor from Bryn Mawr on. So I knew, and then I was blessed with a degree of linguistic ability, so I read English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Right.
So, you know, I could figure it out.
I'm on Duolingo. I got Portuguese and French right now, so
There
I'm
you
trying
go.
my best. And Korean.
Korean?
Yes.
Okay, 감사합니다.
I can say 안녕하세요. So
There you go.
yeah, you got me. But I really want to ask you a question about your approach and approach in balancing historical accuracy with storytelling. How do you do that? Your books are so brilliant and so easy to read for me and for everyone else. I don't know how you accomplish that.
I don't either.
Oh, I knew that was going to be the answer.
Okay. I really don't. I am an academic who's not an academic.
I say that very often.
I don't believe in obfuscation. I read work by colleagues and it's like, I don't know what that word means. You know, my father had a wonderful expression. He would say, hard word, read on. You know, so I would go, hard word, read on, skip that word, let's do something else. So the idea was, how do you get rid of that hard word? Because the hard word doesn't have to be there.
Right.
And, you know, academics, bless you all if you are, I would say we, but I'm not sure that I am. But tend to talk to each other
Right.
and not to other people. I think in one of these books, and you might be able to tell me more than I know, I say I want to write something my grandmother could read. And I have, in adulthood, had a couple of people who knew my grandmother making a point of trying to take me down a notch by saying, you know, your grandmother was illiterate. It's like, I didn't, because she did write poetry, and I remember her writing poetry, so she may have been illiterate writing poetry, but she did what she did. But I want to write something that everybody can understand. I don't understand the need for a polysyllabic thing unless it can't be expressed any other way.
Well, yes, clap for that. That's really important. You know, I keep trying to keep an eye on time, and I know I'm going to go over. I CP time it, so y'all are just going to have to flag me. But I ain't even halfway done with the questions. I got 3 pages of questions,
And we're on
y'all.
2?
We're on 2.
Okay.
We're on 2. I'm going to talk about your first book, Hot Stuff, 1985. I have been through this book so many times, and it has taken me forever just not to write or highlight in this book because it is so provocative. It's a provocative book to me. And it is a significant part of the work that I do, and I pull it off the shelf several times. What drove you to explore this landscape of the Piquant? And at the time, what did you want your readers to walk away with? Because this book is very significant when you start looking at what it explores, the journey of culture, history, events, including menus and celebrations within this book. This is rare. You didn't have books out like this at the time.
I had no idea.
Well,
Okay, the book came out almost by accident. Let's backstroke. I have had a 50-year career as a college professor.
right.
All of this is what the kids nowadays call my side hustle. Okay.
Well, maybe not one
No,
of them.
all of this.
All of it?
All of this.
This one too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All
We'll
of
go-
this is
we'll go
my
into that one
side
too.
hustle.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's my side hustle. So, I didn't necessarily have a thought. The other part of the side hustle was I was back probably when that was being written.
You're writing for Essence, right?
Yeah, I was writing for Essence. I started out at Essence Magazine as the book review editor. I found out I could give free books if I was book review editor. Like, yes! There are people in the book industry today who remember I come with shopping bags. I'm like, I'm getting books, you know. Travel. I went from being book review editor to writing features. One of the 3 features I wrote for Essence. One on somebody whose name's going to escape me now because I'm old. One on Toni Morrison. I did one of the first interviews of Toni. She had just published Sula. That's how long ago it was. And I actually used to go and have lunch with her and blah,
Right.
blah. And then the third one was The Women Who Are the Rainbow from Ntozake Shange's play for colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow is
Yeah.
enough. When that opened on Broadway, I didn't interview Ntozake, but I interviewed all of the women in the play. So from that, I ended up being travel editor at Essence, and from travel went into food, and food kind of ended up there. And out of a situation of crazy, I had a book agent.
Okay.
It was crazy. It was also back in the 80s when that was a lot easier than it is today. And I had written something that got orphaned which means the editor moved, and so the book didn't happen. It ended up being this book 10 years later. But she said, so what do you want to do now? I don't know. Maybe a cookbook.
Oh.
I had never written recipe. I didn't do anything except cook for friends. I didn't have an idea. I didn't know what a cookbook even was. And she came back about 2 weeks later and said, well, that's sold. It's like, what? So then I had to write it. That was hot stuff.
And it's hot. How many dishes did you try out of this book? All of them?
I did.
Woo, y'all
did.
gotta pick this one up. So, in all your books, and these are mine, by the way, sitting up here. I bought them. I bought luggage, and
She had a
I
separate
checked them.
bag.
I had a separate bag just for books. The diversity of the types of books that you have written. Your collection of books are diverse, but represent a core foundation of respecting history, culture, and people. For example, I'm going to look.
The one nobody knows I wrote.
She wrote a book on beauty.
You can tell why.
And it's a recipe book, and it's about culture, and it's about food and ingredients. And so this has been also another significant book for me as I decided to go to school for herbalism, and finding out that we have books out there regarding our culture and significant parts of, as a woman, taking care of yourself, in which you also dedicate to your mother.
The interesting thing about that book is I found a friend from the UN school that I've been separated from for about 20 or 30 years because of that book, because I said something about Sheikah. And at that point, Sheikah had moved out of New York and actually lived in Salt Lake City or Denver or some. I'm one of those New Yorkers, sorry, I have no idea where anybody lives. But her daughter saw the book and said, Mom, that sounds like you. And so I was sitting in my office at Queens College and got a call, and it's, Jessica, this is Sheikah. How many Sheikahs do you know in your life?
Yeah.
So that's how we reconnected through that book.
Wow. And so here's another book. You're like, what? This is a textbook.
It's a reader.
It's a reader. It does have, it does have the academic purchase this book. And I didn't even know this book exists. I was doing some deep searching.
Yes, you were.
I was doing some deep searching. Digging. And it's in French. And I told you I'm on Duolingo, so I'm learning my French right now. But the significance of the work that you're doing is astronomical. And I am going to bring up, she's a deltologist, is that what it is? She is a postcard collector. And when this one came out, I ordered from the publisher. I pre-ordered this one because I was like,
okay.
It just has to come out.
You've got a problem, girl.
I have a problem. This one I could relate to because of the collection of postcards. And I appreciate this one because if you do not have this book or you want a second to come look at this book, you're going to have to stand by me. And I will have to take your phone number in your phone and hold on to it as you look at it. But the significance of photos, I don't know if I can get one here.
Well,
Any
people won't
page.
be able to see them.
They won't be able to see it, but
We'll read the subtitle, because the subtitle is the thing I'm happiest with that book.
in the dignity of their work, in the joy of their play. And this subtitle pretty much says exactly what I was feeling about them in action, them in joy, them in work. Every single photo here, you understand what they're doing or the experience of what's happening, and their smiles is just amazing.
Yeah, and there are no postcards in there after the 1940s. They are all turn of the century, 20s, 30s. They are from the continent, the African continent, from the Caribbean, and from the United States. And it's people at work
Right.
and at play.
So I have to move on to my next page. I'm gonna skip a lot of questions. If you would like a copy, I will let you, I can send that to y'all. I'm going to move on to the anticipated conversation about High on the Hog.
Come on, bring it now.
I've heard you say this several times. Food is identity. One of our first encounters was at Tony Tipton Martin's Soul Summit. And some people in here, that's also where I met you for the first time. You handed me this book. And you told me to read it, and then read it again. And then you stole some caramels from my display that was set up in the other room.
A few, if I recall correctly. Not just some.
I did not know what I was in for when I got this book. This book laid the foundation of understanding of where my knowledge and where my food came from. Within the work that I do now, within the work that my grandmother was doing, the food that she was feeding me, and the pleasure of knowing my great-grandmother as well. What motivated you to explore the connection between African-American food and culture and African food and its roots within this book?
Okay, that book was interesting because that book came out kind of as a sum of all of this other pile you got here. I was fortunate that I had a wonderful editor, Catherine Belden, who is still my editor on a couple of projects. And she looked at me and she said, well, she looked at my books, and what happens is the thing that comes over the recipe is called the head note. And if you look at the books, the head notes just get longer and longer and longer. And she finally said, Jessica, I think you're trying or you want to write narrative, and I think you can. So I came up with this as an idea. She actually purchased it. I can't tell you how many drafts. There were tears. I mean, Catherine, I did this one and that one with Catherine, and you know, she's so used to seeing me cry, she doesn't even worry about it anymore. It's like, like, just do it. But she said, you can write narrative, tell the story. And I don't remember, is this the one that, I think it's this one that has the Stevie Wonder epigraph. One of them does. It's this one? Yeah. Well, it could have been that one either. You know, little Stevlin Morris who said, you better tell your story well, because if you lie, it will come to pass.
That's right.
There it is.
Amen. Well, this book, it flows so well that everybody should be having a copy of this book, and it should be in contact the publisher, your small book stores, but get this book. It should be on your shelf. It is never going to fade.
Thank you.
It's never going to fade.
Thank you.
So, in writing this book, did you find anything that was surprising or enlightening?
Oh God, in writing that book, I found so much that was surprising and enlightening. I mean, remember this book came out in 2011.
Right.
Hercules.
Yes.
George Washington's enslaved chef was surprising and enlightening. Not to the degree that we know him now as Hercules Posey.
Right.
But just the idea that this chef of Washington's was a dandy.
Yes, that was very surprising.
Gold-handled cane, silk waistcoat, because chefs back then would make money from drippings, tallow, because tallow was used to make candles. And so within their cooking, they had a possibility to create not necessarily wealth, but currency.
Right.
So Hercules did all of that, and then kind of like, and he was enslaved.
Yeah.
But he made money, and he was like, this slave thing.
I can't do it no more.
I'm tired of this. And his story is extraordinary, and as it's told in High on the Hog, it's just the rudimentary part. They've discovered so much more of it. He runs away. Washington was diabolical. there were laws in Pennsylvania that if an enslaved person lived in the state of Pennsylvania for X amount of time, they could be manumitted, self-manumit. And Washington would send his enslaved people back to Mount Vernon just to make sure they couldn't.
They stay slaves. Mm-hmm.
So he did that with frequency. And, you know, Hercules said, hell no.
Yep.
And runs away. And it seems, the interesting thing about this whole pile is I have read none of them since I wrote them. So I don't really remember all of them, okay? But the thing with Hercules is, as told in this, and I'm not sure it's still the bedrock, he ran away on Washington's birthday, which I think is just love. I'm like, yeah, not only am I going, I'm going when you got festivities going on,
right,
because there's stuff going on and I can get the hell up and out of here and you won't know I'm going till I'm gone. And what it seems has transpired is he didn't go that far. He stayed in Philly.
Yes, he did.
He stayed in Philly and was kind of underground in Philly, but hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
And Washington paid a lot of money to a lot of folks to try to find him.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't happen. Didn't happen.
I've already got a signal.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to ask one more question.
And I'm going to try to keep it brief.
And I was going to tell you, you're going to have to try to keep it a little short.
I'll try.
Because we just talked about one thing about the book, but how did you work to adapt it into a Netflix documentary series?
Well, that's an easy answer because I didn't.
Well, there we go.
It got optioned by two extraordinary people, Fabienne Toback and Karis Jagger. I now have 1 degree from Mick because Karis is Mick's daughter. And they did the heavy lift. They found Roger Ross Williams as the executive producer, the person who brought it all together. They found that guy over there who's trying to act like he's not here, Steven Satterfield, as the host.
Accept your flowers.
They did all of that, and I am actually in it by accident. I wasn't even supposed to be in it. And it's obviously changed my life. And so it is
well, it's
an extraordinary
changed
thing.
My life and a lot of people in this room.
You knew that wasn't the last question.
No, that wasn't the last.
I knew you were saving that.
I was saving this book. Do y'all see this woman?
That's before, this is after. There you go.
In your foreword, you write, for those who knew me then, and those who knew me when, and those who know me now. If you have not read this book, y'all need to get this book. And then after you read it, I need you to download the audiobook and listen from your voice. Because places where I thought was important was different when I listened to you speak about your life, your love, the history, the people you were with. You have 1 degree, now I'm 1 degree away from some of these people sitting next to you.
Can you tell us the name of the book?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm acting like y'all. I'm sitting up here fanning. My soul looks back. I need you to get this book, and I need you to see this woman on the cover of this book. Y'all ain't understand. Look at these arms.
It ain't there no more. The thing is that that book is, the original title was A Moment in Time.
Oh.
Because a moment in time is really what it was. I've had this bizarre and strange and wonderful, charmed life. In my 20s, I was friends with a gentleman who was James Baldwin's best friend.
Yeah.
So
Don't give all the secrets away. Yeah.
So through this gentleman whose name was Samuel Clemens Floyd III, I got to hang out with Jimmy and call him Jimmy.
1 degree here.
And I got to know Maya Angelou for more than 40 years.
1 degree.
And I've already talked about writing about Toni Morrison, but I got to socialize and hang out with her. And Rosa Guy and Louise Merriweather and all sorts of wonderful folks
Nina
like
Simone.
that. Nina Simone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folks like that there. So that's the kind of 10-year span that's covered in that book.
Were there any emotional challenges you faced while delving into your past while writing this book?
I told you, worked with Kathy Belden. There were a whole lot of tears.
Because there's some vulnerability in this book.
Yeah, no. I have my father's memory. My father was extraordinary. I talk probably in my books way more about my mother, but that's because my father died when I was 35.
Right.
And I now realize I have lived without him longer than I lived with him. But he had an extraordinary memory where he could recall the past when needed. So I can remember meals that I haven't thought about in 50 years if I'm writing about them. Because I have his memory and I can recall things pretty much incompleteness. So when I'm talking about eating at Chez Garin in Paris in the 70s, Chez Garin was a 2-star Michelin restaurant owned by a friend of Baldwin's. Mary Garin was the woman Baldwin always said, if he ever were to marry a woman, he would marry Mary. And they were close. And Mary married a chef, French chef, was a 2-star Michelin chef. Everybody in France said he'd be a 3-star Michelin chef if he wasn't so miserable, you know, because he would fuss and scream and fight and everything. But I went to Chez Garin at one point, and I remember the taste. I was served a ragoût de truffe, which is a truffle stew. There is nothing richer than a stew of truffles.
I bet not.
In a brown sauce. Served in a ramekin with a pastry top.
Over the top. I remember you talking about
Okay, and you pierce the pastry and you get truffle, 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 truffle. You know, and you know, it's that dish. It's I think I called it something like it's a duel because the truffle is so aristocratic. And the brown sauce, the stew, a ragoût simply means a stew. The idea of a stew is certainly la cuisine bourgeoise. It's not, you know, la grande cuisine.
Right.
But a stew of truffles is something else.
It is. Well, I think they're going to drag me off the stage.
The hook is coming.
Yeah, they kept going.
The hook is coming.
I see the look. Let me just ask one
Here
more
comes the hook.
question. Let me ask, I have several more, but I want to talk about the future. I have 2 questions because I have to ask it, but
I'll try to be brief.
Okay,
but
what
we know that ain't gonna happen.
What advice would you give aspiring writers who want to explore culture and historical topics in their work?
I can do that in one word.
Okay.
Do.
Do it.
Just do.
Just do it.
Do.
All right. And the next one. What you working on?
Ooh. Well, it was so interesting.
It won't leave this room.
No, I know. That one I'm not telling you about. I wrote a Kwanzaa book in 1995. It's being, I can't say re-edited, slightly refreshed, as in it's no longer going to talk about, you know, photographs and Xerox machines. And that's coming out this Kwanzaa.
Right. It's sitting somewhere up here.
It's this one, third down, fourth down. A mother knows her children. I am working with Francis Lamb, who you saw here. Francis Lamb is my editor on a book called Braided Heritage. The conceit of that book is that the foundational food of the United States is a braid.
Yes.
Native American, foundational food now, Native American, European American, specifically the Spanish, the British, the Dutch, whom we always forget, but who gave us cookies, waffles, and coleslaw.
Yes, they did.
And the French.
Yeah.
And then, of course, African Americans. And so, surprise, surprise, Jessica knows somebody from each of those categories.
Well, just to close out, remember we talked about those caramels? And do you remember what you asked for me to do?
More, I'm still not satisfied. More. Yes, you got caramels for me.
And I literally ran home and stayed up all night and made caramels. You. So when I heard I was coming, I stayed up all night and I made you the ginger salted caramels that made us friends.
Sweetheart, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ain't nobody touching these.
Thank you to both of you for this conversation.
Oh, yes.
Keep your seats because there's, maybe a few more people that want to have a conversation with you from afar. Is that okay?
Questions. Okay. Questions.
Okay.
Try.
Hey, Dr. Harris, how you doing? It's your nephew, Kwame. I am so incredibly honored to have you in my life. Even before I met you, you just injected, I think, the history of America with African culture and the importance of knowing that we do have a history, that we do have a legacy that is important to continue to speak about. And I think you've clearly paved the way for all of us. And I know that I'm extremely grateful, and the world is just a better place because you are in it. So thank you for everything you have done for us. I love you.
When I think of Jessica B. Harris, the words that come to mind are trailblazer, innovator, master historian. She really is an inspiration to so many of us in the creative fields, particularly those of us who are interested in African American history and culture and art. Jessica has been a role model for me and just really a creative North Star as I've tried to do my own work, telling the stories that I'm trying to tell. So my hat's off to her. She is an innovator and really a person of tremendous intellect and grace.
Good evening from Palm Springs, California. I am K.N. Henry. Thank you, MoAD SF, for the opportunity to support and congratulate my friend, Dr. Jessica B. Harris. After decades of documenting the foodways of the African diaspora, most people know you as a celebrated culinary historian. But I know you as an artist. You're really an artist, and your academic work has been about the art of living, the art of being alive. And so I invite attendees tonight to order their copy of My Soul Looks Back, Iron Pots and Wooden Spoons, Beyond Gumbo, Sky Juice and Flying Fish, the Martha's Vineyard Table. And from those and more, you'll appreciate the beautiful ways we as a people have flourished when given the barest of ingredients. I am so excited for you and look forward to witnessing more of your success and looking forward to our time together on Martha's Vineyard this summer. All of the best to you. Thank you again.
I had the pleasure of knowing Jessica B. Harris for about 10 years. I met her at the Soul Summit. Although her remarkable work has been on my shelf for about 20 years and has been consistently present and their pages worn from countless readings. Dr. J is undoubtedly an icon who has not only delved into the past, but also lays a sturdy foundation for the voices in the future. Her work prompts frequent reflection, and her unmistakable voice also echoes through my head and giving me wisdom as I moved along in my own future of my work. Her profound impact on African American culinary heritage will always be remembered as a powerful, distinct, and instrumental in defining a place in the world of food.
Dr. J, they're telling me that this is the place to celebrate you, so I know I'm in the right place. 50 years of scholarship, unrivaled, unmatched. We all know that, but as the person who is the biggest beneficiary of your work, undoubtedly, I can never miss a moment to express my gratitude for you in not only going through the experiences that we have, but long before that, the blueprint that you provided for me and so many others who believed that our foodways and ancestry as Black people could be its own key for so many other of our own explorations and ways of understanding ourselves and even making careers for ourselves. So thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you got to see the world reflect back to you your brilliance and their gratitude for your brilliance. We love you.
One of the things we believe in it here at MoAD is that everyone is participating in this life that we're creating together. And so we would love to take a few questions from you all, because your stories are entangled with Dr. Harris. Your stories, some of them happened because of Dr. Harris. So we have, I believe, a live mic in the room. Am I right? I'm not telling lies. There it is.
It's in the back.
And we would love to take a few questions, and to spur this process, even though we know that you're about to go all get your own copies of all 12, 14, 17 books, we do have 2 recipe cards at your seat, taken from a couple of different books that Dr. Harris has shared with us. One of them is the kalas, yes, the rice. Yeah, the puffed rice. It's just, it's a beautiful recipe and story. The other is tin boy curry, and that was a recipe from Maya Angelou. Both of these are simply representative of the storytelling and of the beautiful commitment to relationship that Dr. Harris has in the writing that she does. I want you to turn to those because I'd like to base your questions in your own experience of the recipes of your life, your family. I'd love for you to base your questions on how this has impacted, if you are already familiar with Dr. Harris's work, how it's impacted the way that you honor this scholarship and this way of being in the story of food that is literally saving our lives. And I don't want to go too much feedback here, my apologies. So I have a question. There's a person that had their hand up over here already. Where was it? There we go.
Dr. Harris, thank you. Right here in the middle. Right here.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, how are you? Ralph Remington, Director of Cultural Affairs at the San Francisco Arts Commission. I was wondering if you could explain to us what your writing process is like. How do you write? Is it in the morning? Is it at night? What do you do?
Wait till the deadline and write like hell. I am not that writer. I did not go to journalism school or anything else. I started out by writing, I started out by writing for the New York Amsterdam News. I wrote for the Amsterdam News. I wrote book reviews. I have been told that I am the first Black woman to vote for the Tony Awards because I wrote theater criticism for the Amsterdam News in the 70s. The Amsterdam News is a glorious paper, one of the African American papers that gave our communities life and all sorts of things. But it was also a paper that would lob off the last paragraph if they needed the space and it needed to cut something for the space. So starting out as a journalist and starting out as that kind of a journalist back in the day, you wrote so you got all in everything you could get in. And, that influenced practice. I also write on deadline and to word length. So I don't, I write also to outline. If I'm doing a book, I do a fairly detailed outline, which I submit. This chapter, X number of pages, these are things that'll be, I'm fortunate at this stage in my career, I can sell a book from an outline. I don't have to turn in the complete book. But the outline is very intense. So. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
And we have a question over here at table 5 as well. A couple of those. One moment, the mic's on its way.
Dr. Harris, could you speak to the concept of the Atlantic Creole world?
Oh.
In a few
That would be the problem.
I know.
Can I speak to it without
it's an idea who needs to be more widely spread. So do it justice.
Well, the whole idea, we're in San Francisco. We're in San Francisco where the world tends to look east. I was born and raised in New York, where the world tends to look, I guess in San Francisco you look west, in New York you look east. So I grew up looking at the Atlantic. There's a book that I did called Beyond Gumbo, Creole Fusion Food from the Atlantic Rim. That was in direct relationship to everybody who was talking about Pacific Rim food. And it's like, the United States grew out of the Atlantic Rim, not the Pacific Rim. The United States grew out of that world that was the Creole mixing of native peoples, Europeans, and Africans, and that Creole world is what spawned us. Everything else is a part of it. I'm not saying it doesn't count. I'm saying it came later. But that's that Creole world. The whole idea that this book has a 3-page definition of the word Creole that I'm not going to get into now, but the whole idea of what does Creole mean and what does Creole mean in various centuries and what does Creole mean in various places is a discussion that we have yet to have. Thank you. Debbie Vassar.
Hi, Dr. Harris.
Hi.
Rima Mutreja. I think I can say for many that High on the Hog really changed me, and I told you for me it's been a learning journey ever since. I'm originally from India, and I'm reading this recipe of 10-boy curry, and I see a lot of Indian words, Indian names here, from kachumber to raita. I have 2 questions. Where does the word boys, or what does the word boys in this recipe mean? And how big a fan of Indian cuisine are you?
Well, I'm a big fan of Indian cuisine. That's a quick answer. I'm a very big fan of Indian cuisine. The 10-boy curry is actually a recipe that I came up with to honor Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou. Somebody I spoke with earlier this evening was saying they were from Sonoma. I was saying I had been to Dr. Angelou's house in Sonoma, and she cooked because she adored cooking. And cooking for her was performative. It was, dinner theater in a whole nother kind of way. And she would do a 10-boy curry. It's not an Indian curry. It's a Singaporean curry. And the idea is that the boys were literally the house boys that would bring these 10 dishes in that would make the curry that was probably more like a rice staffel than a traditional Indian curry in any kind of way.
Thank you so much for these questions. I think I saw 2 more hands especially. Please raise them high so I can see. Oh, one was over here. Oh, there we go.
Over there.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Helena Jada. I just want to ask, I loved what you said about your parents dreaming. And as a parent, I'm wondering, what did your parents instill in you? Could you share something that they shared with you or something that they told you every day that really gave you the confidence to move in different spaces? And did you also, or did they also speak with you about their sacrifices? About their sacrifices? And did you know what they were doing for you every day? Especially like when your mom was going to work and you were in that UN space. Did you know
honey,
she's working
everybody's
so
mom
hard
went
for
to
me?
work.
Yeah.
I think my parents, first of all, I'm a child of late parents. I was born when my mother was 35. So they didn't feel that they were making sacrifices. They had their together time and their hanging out time and their whoop-de-doo wild time before I came around. So by the time I got there, that was the focus, me. And it was wonderful. I honor the fact that they certainly made sacrifices, but they never made me feel guilty for their sacrifices, because their sacrifices was why they had me. They wanted to do that. What did they tell me to make me do that? I was the good kid. They simply said, "You're gonna do this." It's like, "Yes, ma'am." You know, I wasn't rebellious. I wasn't, you know, sort of. I didn't chafe, if you will, at their designs. You'll go to Bryn Mawr because you're not going to major in theater. Well, I went to Bryn Mawr and I didn't major in theater. I guess, you know, hindsight is wonderful. I could have stomped my feet and said, "I'm going to leave home," but I wasn't leaving home. It was good. You know, let's be real. That's kind of how that went. Okay.
Thank you for that question. And we have one more question that I am forgetting where it was. So please raise your hand up once more for me so I can make sure to find you. Nia, did you see it when it came up last time around? Okay, it might have been a quiet question. You have one.
Dr. Harris, you know, you've told us so much of what to do, how to do, because you've shared your story. But right now, we need somebody to tell us what to do.
It ain't me, babe.
Well,
no, it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you looking for.
I think it is in the sense of how you plant your words. You know, you sprinkle things throughout and they take root. And so you've been places, you saw where we came from, because that is a very vivid scene on High on the Hog when you're experiencing that. I mean, I've not been, but I was there with you. So it's that tonight, as I leave here, I just need one little pearl to take, other than your presence that you've shared this evening.
Okay. About 2 weeks ago, there is an organization called Cherry Bomb. You must be familiar with Cherry Bomb. It is women in food. And I am actually the cover girl, tra-la, on the current issue of Cherry Bomb. There are 3 covers. It's Madhur Jaffrey, Grace Young, and myself. we had a conversation, and I kind of ended the conversation with these young ladies who were in their, for the most part, 30s and 40s, who were starting in the world of food. And they said, what advice do you have? And I had 2 words, and I will leave you with the same 2 words. Do and thrive. That's it. That's all I got. Do and thrive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Harris, Adrian Lipscombe, thank you so
Adrian.
much for being here this evening. It is an incredible honor to be part of this ongoing storytelling. It is part of all of our traditions to be in that place of hearing each other's stories and making sure that it becomes tradition. It's so important for us as an entire culture to make sure that we're tracking these amazing opportunities for us to not only honor, but also reveal and affirm. And that was this evening for us and with you, and we are just so grateful that you gave us your time, your honesty, and quite frankly, just the vibe of Dr. Harris, y'all.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much. And I would love to invite our executive director back up. Monetta, would you like to grace us with a little bit more?
Oh, maybe, sure.
Excellent.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I want to thank Dr. Harris and Chef Adrian. Thank you so much. Can we give it a round of applause again for them? Yeah. And I just want to leave you with 2 things. If you had a good time tonight, there are some cards on the table for donations to continue to support programs like this tonight, that what we're doing. We need your support, and so please fill those out. And then secondly, if you had a good time tonight, get your phones out right now. October 5th is the Afropolitan Ball. So I want you to save the date for that, and please show up to attend that. And again, I just want to say thank you once again for coming. I want to thank our sponsors again, Kaiser Permanente, thank you so much. St. Regis, our presenting sponsors, and all of our sponsors. I think we have Planet Forward in the house. Julia Collins, thank you so much again. And please, the QR code is up. And Chef Jocelyn, thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you. Oh, gosh.
Wow, what a beautiful evening.